Hey everybody, long time no see. It is Mike and I'm back with a video, and even though I've got some workout equipment next to me, today is not about a workout. It's about a corrective exercise or a couple of corrective exercises plus a stretch to help with some lower back issues. As trainers, especially when we have new clients and we ask, well, what sort of injury issues are you dealing with or any aches and pains? Invariably, there's one of the big three. It's knee, back, and shoulders, sometimes a combination of two of the three, or some cases, a lot of cases, all three. So today I'm going to talk about lower back, particularly the muscles and a particular muscle in the side of your back, attaching down, really down towards the lower end of the posterior chain or upper end of the posterior chain, up, down, whatever. Anyway, it's something called the Quadratus Lumborum, QL for short. It's a very hard muscle to get to. It's a very deep muscle to get to, and therefore it's really hard to actually work out and strengthen, and certainly to be able to stretch it. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you a couple of exercises that you can do that will help you identify, number one, where that muscle is so that you can actually work on a stretch that I'll show you last, and it does involve a little bit of weight. What we're trying to do is set up an imbalance so that one side of your body has to compensate for weight on the other side of the body, and by doing that you end up having to activate this muscle, and it takes a little while to get to it, so bear with me. So I'm going to first start off with an exercise called a bottom-up carry, and it's usually best performed with a kettlebell just because of how a kettlebell is constructed. You're able to put the weight up on top. It's got a nice handle that you can hold on to. I'll show you a way to do this with a dumbbell, and the idea basically is you hold this from the bottom up, or actually the bottom is going to be facing up. You're going to hold the handle down. You're going to tuck your elbow right into your side here, and you want your shoulder back. You don't want to be leaning forward with that. So shoulder back, kettlebell bottom up, and basically you're just going to walk back and forth. Now my range of travel here, just because of this video, is not going to be very far. You can go farther with this, and what you want to do is you can walk for 100 yards, 200 yards, walk for time, whatever, and you want to do this on both sides. So what will happen after a little bit of time here, this is not a real heavy weight. You don't want to go too heavy with this because it's hard to balance in this position. So after a little while, you're going to start to feel a little bit of activation of a muscle back in here that maybe you're not too familiar with. Maybe you think because you feel the muscle that you're at risk, and you're not. You're basically having that muscle fire off and activate, and that way you know where it is, and you're also strengthening it. So you could walk for, again, time or distance, and do the same thing on both sides. If you don't have a kettlebell, you can use a dumbbell. If you've got one of those, then you'd hold it essentially the same way, just from one end, and have the weight up. Kettlebell is a little bit better because it sets up an imbalanced structure up here, which really forces that other side of your body to help try to compensate from gravity pulling you this direction. But the idea would be the same. You're going to walk just back and forth and do it on either side until you feel that muscle activate. Now in this particular exercise, it'll take probably a minute or two before you start to feel this back here, but even if you don't, that's okay. There's another exercise that you'll do after that that will definitely help get to that muscle, but this is one way to do it. So that's exercise number one, the bottom-up carry. The next exercise is something called a suitcase carry. We've done some suitcase carries and some suitcase deadlifts in here, and just as the name implies, you're going to hold the kettlebell or a heavy weight, and you want to go much heavier with this than you would for the bottom-up carry. You're going to hold this like a suitcase, again being mindful to not have your shoulders rolled forward. You want that good posture effect, so shoulder back, chest out, and again, like the bottom-up carry, you're going to walk back and forth for a predetermined distance or time, and this one you'll feel a little bit quicker. The first thing you'll notice, especially with a relatively heavy weight, again, heavier is better for this particular exercise. You're not trying to let the weight swing around. Try to keep it nice and stable. But the first thing that you'll notice is your obliques firing off right away. The second thing you'll notice, again, like that bottom-up carry, after a little bit of time, and it'll take less time with this move than with a bottom-up carry for you to start to feel that muscle. Again, your other side, the other side of your body is trying to stabilize and prevent this move right here. So muscles need to fire off to do that. You're trying to walk relatively stably and straight. Try not to go too wonky, and again, try not to let the weight swing around. So just back and forth again on one side and then do that on the other side. Again, eventually you will feel the muscles in the lower part of your back, that QL, start to fire off, and go with that. Don't be afraid to work that muscle. Now, if it's super painful, then of course stop. But just because you feel something going on back there, some tension, some soreness, muscle movement, whatever you want to call it, don't stop. You're not hurting yourself, generally speaking, unless you have something else going on. So those are your two exercises. Now for the stretch. It's something called the 90-90 stretch, and we'll get into why I have that here. But a 90-90 stretch is basically kind of a variation of a hurdler stretch that you would do. You set one leg up at 90 degrees and the other leg behind you, kind of your knee in line with your foot. And this is so this particular configuration that I'm in right now is going to stretch the QL on the right side of my body. If you want to do the other side, you'll flip around and go the other way. So you would lean over on your elbow and your forearm and basically take the other arm, reach over your body, and just start reaching towards the side. You can move around towards the front. You can touch the ground. You can do a few different things. If there's something that feels particularly good or particularly effective, like you're really connecting to that muscle back there, then hold on to it. Just hang on to this. There's no necessarily set time that you need to do this, but any stretch you should hold for longer than just a few seconds. So move around with this, see what feels good. You'll feel some other things activate as well in terms of stretching. So you'll do that, again, on one side, then flip around and do it on the other side. Same idea, roughly 90 degrees in the front, 90 degrees in the back, lean over, stretch out the other way, same deal. Now, after you do that, you want to find something like this, a lacrosse ball, something that's relatively small and fairly firm. Something bigger than that, a tennis ball or a softball, is going to cover too much ground, and it's going to be hard to actually find that QL back there to get in there. You can also use a thumb or a knuckle or something like that. It's a little bit harder to do with this because you're trying to find what we call a trigger point, and it may vary from day to day. I know it does for me when I do this. In any given day, it could be in an area, I'll come back here a little bit, it could be anywhere from here all the way around to here. I don't know necessarily where it's going to be. I have to kind of feel it out. So I'm going to go back here up against the wall. Hopefully you'll still be able to hear me. And basically you just go up against the wall, put that lacrosse ball back there in your muscles, not in your spine, and just kind of roll around a little bit. Don't put a lot of pressure on there. Just try to find that spot where you feel like it's a little bit tender. You'll know it when you feel it. It's not something that you really have to sit there and say, well, what am I feeling for? What am I trying to feel? You'll feel it. Once you feel that spot that feels tender, just lay into that, rest on it. Don't press too hard. Stay in there for about 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute, longer if you can. The longer you can do that, again, with minimal pressure, the better able you will be to release that muscle, release the tension, have that loosen up. And if you're bothered with some sciatic pain, lower back pain, if you do these exercises and that stretch down here on the ground, and then finally the little trigger point therapy with a lacrosse ball, you will, I pretty much guarantee you, feel 100% better. Do it every single day. It will do you wonders. Any questions, drop them down in the comments. I will see you next time. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.